Certainly when we talk about DWIs and let's say there is a conviction, there's so many things to consider, but one thing people is so near and dear to their heart is their ability to drive. You know, what happens afterwards. Can you go over just a couple of highlights, and then maybe we can go in depth later on, a couple of highlights, what we'll call general considerations for driving privileges?
Well, first off, your license is going to be taken the night you're charged if you blow a .08 or greater, or if you refuse the test. So if breath testing is involved, you're going to lose your license. The time you don't is if there's a blood test, because they don't know what the results are. So if your blood is taken at the hospital, they're not going to take your license that night. So what we're talking about in that is pretrial privileges. Now, it's going to catch up with you later once that blood test is sent to the lab and they get a result. If it's .08 or greater, you're going to lose your license for 30 days, but that may be 6 months from now. So getting a limited driving privilege is very complicated, but typically you got to have a valid driver's license the night that you're charged. You then have to file a petition with a court requesting driving privileges and laying out grounds that you qualify for them, and that's what your lawyer does. You're then entitled to, well, not entitled, you're granted limited driving privileges to be able to drive to work and back during any hour that you can substantiate that you need it. And that's why you may need a letter about if you drive after 8 o'clock at night or on Saturdays or Sundays.
Right.
And you can also just drive to maintain your household if you got to go to the grocery store or to the dentist or things like that, but that's restricted to weekdays only. So there are restricted hours on a limited driving privilege. It's valid in all 50 states. It gets, if North Carolina is your licensing state, assume you're from Virginia and you get a DWI here, well, we can't give you limited privileges to drive in Virginia. We can only give you limited privileges to drive in North Carolina.
Understood.
So it gets real complicated when you're dealing with out-of-state driving privileges as compared to in-state. But if you're a North Carolina driver, your limited driving privileges are valid in all 50 states.
Well, you've touched on pretrial privileges, and you've also mentioned in passing post-trial privileges. We're going to go in depth on each of these, starting with pretrial privileges. And we'll do that one next.